It is 52 degrees in Anchorage, and it's September 2nd. I'm on a walking path, and just an amazing coolness in the air. It's raining, so you might see the umbrella every now and then pop open. We're talking Walk and Talk number 73, and we're talking about trashing God, and trashing yourself, and trashing each other. So think about that sequence: trashing God, trashing yourself, and trashing others. So you're going to hear from Romans chapter 1. If you have your Bible, turn there. Romans chapter 1. You're going to hear how when we trash God, we trash ourselves and we trash others. So there is a sequence. When you trash God, when you disrespect God, when you dishonor God, you dishonor yourself and you dishonor others. So the sequence goes like this. I trash God, I trash myself, I trash others. So in Romans chapter 1, I want you to look with me at verse 21 and note what it says, because it's pretty clear in the text. It says, "For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God." Even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God. Even though they knew God, they did not give thanks, but they became futile. That idea of futile is empty. They became futile in their reasoning, in their ideas, in their philosophies, in their worldview, and their senseless hearts were darkened. Foolish hearts. Now, what you have here is a vertical trashing of God. So note here that it says they knew God, and then they turned around and did not honor him. So I want you to think with me for just a moment. Do you know a time when you knew God and then disrespected him? Sure you do. You know anybody around you that at one time said they believed in God, trusted God, walked with God, and then turned around and dishonored, walked away, rebelled? Sure you do. Now, notice what happens here. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to God, but they became futile in their reasoning. You see, we first trash God in our mind, in our thinking. We have these doubts about God. We have these empty thoughts about philosophy, about what man can do, or there's not a God, or I don't understand how God works. I don't understand. I can't figure out who God is. I just watched an eagle swoop down. Not an eagle, looks like a hawk. Swoop down on this lake that I'm walking around and pick up a fish right out of the lake. I wish I could get it on my camera, but it's just a beautiful thing. When you begin in your mind to doubt God or disrespect God or trash God, what happens is in your mind you started denying God, it begins with a reasoning in your mind. And then your heart gets dark, right? Yeah. So lots of depression, not all depression, but lots of depression and discouragement is a sense of hopelessness, of despair. And that all starts, a lot of it starts in the brain. Here in Romans 1:21, see that word reasoning? They became futile in their reasoning. Now think with me. When we think wrong, it leads to problems, right? So if you think wrong about God, it's going to create problems for you and for others. Let me put it another way. When you trash God in your heart, when you trash God in your mind, you trash yourself and you trash others. And the heart becomes dark. We can become hopeless, despair, discouraged. It's a cloudy day here in Alaska. And there is a little bit of a darkness out here. And yesterday it was just all sunshine. It was just beautiful. But you can feel a little darkness. But you know, God is still God. That hawk that I just watched pick up a fish out of the lake, it's all design. The ecosystem, the cycle of life, the beauty. We're watching the colors in Alaska change on the trees. When we first came here back in the middle of June, everything was green and beautiful. Now some of the trees are turning yellow. You got to back up and accept the fact by nature, when you look around and see creation, in your mind, you got to conclude there's a God. That's what Romans chapter 1, verse 21 is getting at, and I'll show you in just a moment. You see, remember the book of Romans is written to Gentiles, Romans, not Jewish people. So the Romans did not have the Old Testament, the Ten Commandments. And the Jewish people had that, but the Romans didn't. But the Romans had philosophy. They had Plato and Socrates and Aristotle. So when Paul is saying here in their reasonings, Paul is trying to find a common bridge. You knew in the natural order, in your philosophy, Paul is appealing to Plato and Socrates and Aristotle, who is pre-Jesus. Paul is saying, look, you guys at one time believed there was a God just by looking at creation, at the natural order of things. But you turned away from God. Paul's saying to these Romans, you guys used to believe in a God, a supreme being, not the Jesus of the Bible, but a supreme being. Now they don't believe in God. What happens is they went from honoring the God of creation to trashing God, and then trashing themselves, and then trashing each other. You can see that in America, can't you? You can see that in your own life. You can see that everywhere you go. When people dishonor God, even if they knew God, you can watch them trash their own lives and trash each other. Now, when you do that, it creates a spiraling punishment or a spiraling discouragement into literally lawlessness. Lots of people wonder, how did I get into this mess? So here we go. Romans chapter 1, verse 21. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their reasonings, and their senseless hearts were darkened. And what happens next? Drop to verse 26 in Romans chapter 1. For this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions, because they trashed God. God gave them over to idolatry. God gave them over, watch this, to follow the unnatural. Women exchange natural relationships for that which is contrary to nature. See, Paul's saying, look at nature. Male, female. Look at nature. That's the way nature designed, right? And behind nature is God. Relations contrary to nature, and likewise men too abandon natural relations with women and burned in their desire toward one another. Now watch this. Males with males committing shameful acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. Now watch verse 28. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God, watch, God gave them up to their depraved mind to do those things that are not, watch this, proper. They're not natural. God did not make male and female to do male and male or female and female. God didn't make it. It's not by nature. It's not natural. To use today's vernacular, it's not science, right? You can look at the scientific evidence. God did not, nature did not, science didn't. It's not natural for male to go with male or female to go with female. So what happens? God gave them up to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper. That's verse 28. Now don't stop there just with this sexual contradiction, with this sexual depravity or this sexual trashing of each other. Look at verse 29. People, having been filled with all unrighteousness, watch this, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice, they are gossips. You see, when we trash God, when we dishonor God, when we see that God somehow, we think he doesn't exist. We think that there cannot be a God. We begin to move into literally foolish reasonings, senseless hearts. And not only do we do the sexually immoral, but we literally move into deceit, right? We lie, we manipulate, we get greedy, we get envious. And friends, look around. People murder, right? Strife, deceit, malice, gossip. All of this on social media, right? All of this on television, right? You don't have to go very far. When you trash God, you trash yourself and you trash each other. That's what the text is saying. God gave them over to a depraved mind. Listen, you can walk outside anytime, anywhere, and you can recognize, hey, the sun's up today, or it's raining. There is a design, and to have a design, you have to have a design maker. You have to have a creator, a manufacturer of that design. Guess what? That's God. And Paul is appealing to the Roman mind because of their historical philosophies, all the way back from Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates. He's just simply saying, hey, by nature, you used to recognize there was a God, but you chose to deny the natural. See, the natural by nature is male to female, right? But you chose to just trash God's design. God didn't design for male and male. God didn't design for greed. All the way back to the 10 Commandments, you can check that out. Don't covet what your neighbor has. Listen to this. We become gossips. When was the last time you slandered someone? When was the last time you literally was mean to someone? Rude? Obnoxious? Look at verse 30. Slanderers, haters, gossips, slanderers, haters of God. You know anybody in America that hates God? Yeah. Matter of fact, I know a lot of Christians that used to, in the past, they said they loved God and honored God, and now they are haters of God. Insolent, rebellious, toward authority, defiant, arrogant, boastful. Get this, inventors of evil. Friend, listen, how easy is it to invent evil? It's easy, isn't it? All of us can just take our minds and run far away from God, and we can begin to invent that which God hates. Evil. Inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, verse 31, untrustworthy, unfeeling, and unmerciful. You know, there's lots of people around us that have no compassion. They don't care. They're just going to trash everybody. I hope that's not you. Unmerciful. Get this. Unfeeling, verse 31. Without understanding, untrustworthy, unfeeling, unmerciful. Now verse 32. And although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. It is amazing how easy it is for a believer in God to support evil. It is interesting how easy it is for a believer in the Bible, a Christian, to support sin. Oh, they may not be practicing that particular sin, but they endorse and say, if you want to do it, that's okay. Friends, listen to me. Somewhere in our journey with God, you have to have the conviction to say, look, let's disagree. My God, my Bible says that's wrong. That's a sin. Yes, you have a choice to participate in gossip or slander or sexual immorality, but my God still calls that wrong. Friends, you have to have the conviction to honor God, honor yourself, and honor others. Don't trash God. Don't trash yourself. Don't trash others, because your heart gets darker and darker and darker. See, it begins in the mind, doesn't it? You remember that verse in the Bible? I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, a holy living sacrifice, honorable to God. You remember that? See, as a believer in God, don't get caught up in the darkness around you. Don't get caught up in the gossip. Don't get caught up in the deceit, the malice, the discontentment. Don't get caught up in the arrogance or the insolent or the strife. When we live our lives in such a way that we trash God, we trash ourselves. When you lie to God, you lie to yourself. You can't lie to God. When you cheat God, you cheat yourself. When you begin to trash God, you trash others. There's no excuse. See, a lot of us have to back up and recognize, even people who do not believe in God, they have a chance to look at creation. They have a chance to look at the natural and check out God. A lot of us are going through life and we're just simply failing to recognize God is God. When you look at the beauty, where I'm at, the colors are now changing. When you look at creation, you just simply have to smile. God's God. Whether you recognize it or not, whether I recognize it or not, God's God. See, even science shouts God. Creation, natural, nature. We need to just simply rest. Rest in the fact God's God. Lots of us need to stop trashing each other. Stop trashing ourselves. How do we do that? By honoring God. I'm not saying God's looking for perfect people. I'm just simply saying that God is looking for people who will honor him. Now, the world around you can be falling apart. The world around you can be completely in self-destruction trash mode. But you don't have to be. I don't have to be. You see, that's where just a humble conviction. You love people. You love God. You're going to speak the truth in love. You're not going to be upset. You're not going to worry. You're not going to be angry. You're not going to be a gossip, a slanderer. You're just simply going to speak the truth in love. You're going to have a backbone. You're going to have the courage to stand up for the truth. So let me encourage you, each one of us. The book of Romans is an amazing book. I would encourage you to read it, study it, stand up and honor God. Don't trash God. Don't trash yourself. Don't trash others. Just live a life of obedience inside. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Lean not on your own understandings, but in all ways acknowledge him. See, it's real easy, isn't it? When we study the Bible, we think we know God, but it's easy, isn't it, to go on that downward spiral toward darkness. And then one day we wake up and we say, what happened to me? What happened? Turn your back on what the world says. Honor God. Don't trash God. Honor him. Enjoy what God has given. Walk humbly with your God. Don't worry about what other people are doing. It's real easy to be a gossip, isn't it? It's real easy to slander, isn't it? It's real easy to go against nature or natural, isn't it? It's easy to go against God. You don't want to be the individual who used to know God, and in your philosophies, in your reasoning, and in your heart, it became foolish and senseless. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. It doesn't matter what's going on around you. Pay close attention to the God of the Bible. Pay close attention to Jesus Christ. We invite you this coming Sunday at 9:30 on campus or online to worship. FBC Tempe, 11 o'clock on campus or online. FBC Tempe, 11 o'clock upstairs as well. Downstairs and upstairs, 11 o'clock on campus. And then 6 p.m., worship God. If you can't worship in the morning, on campus or online, 6 p.m. in the worship center. The God of the universe is in control. Creation, the natural, shouts that, doesn't it? Don't trash God. Don't trash yourself. And don't trash others. Blessings on you. Have a great one.